Welcome to the dojo. This is One Cut Studio with another tutorial. I'm sorry, my dojo followers out there. It's been a long time since I've done a tutorial. I've been working on my game recently. It's called Treasure Quest. Uh, it's available for a beta demo. The first 3 levels are playable. You can download it. Check out the RPG Maker Central forums. There's a link there. You can also find it in the concepts page on Steam's Greenlight Concepts. So check it out there. Give it a good vote. Leave some love there. Other than that, let's just get right to it. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about spriting animals. That was one of the suggestions that was left on the tutorial thread, and in particular, birds. Now, there's there's reasons why you don't see a lot of sprites for animals, because animals are difficult, and a lot of people don't have frames of reference when it comes to animals. So you'll see a lot more people doing sprites for people, because we have our own references. We can reference ourselves, right? It's very easy. And once you get to animals, it gets a lot more difficult. And one of the things that I can say is having reference material is super important. Even if you're a professional artist, if you try to draw something, just from your mind's eye, that's great. And you might have practiced a whole bunch, but in order to make something really stand out and represent what you're trying to go for, you need reference material. Let me just give you a quick example of that. So the actual tutorial today is going to be how to draw an owl. And I picked an owl because, one, I think owls are cool, and also because you might have seen that image on the internet. It's 2 steps how to draw an owl. First is, you draw the basic shapes, and then the second is draw the rest of the owl. And it's just kind of funny, how you get these tutorials where, the artist kind of shows you a little bit at the beginning, and then they show you the end product, and you don't really get to see what goes on in between. And so I'm kind of torn. For the sake of saving time and video time, you don't want to have a super long tutorial because you'll lose your audience. And it does take time to create these sprites, and it does go through. There's a process of trial and error, and it wouldn't be very exciting to see me looking at a picture and looking back and doing all these fixing things. So let me just give you a quick example. Okay. When I was just fooling around, I was like, all right, I'm going to do an owl, and this is just a very, very basic line art that I came up with just from memory. Okay, and I can look at that and I can say, all right, I can make that work as an owl. I can make that look like an owl, but it's a little cartoony. Okay, so then the next step is to go online and find some reference photos. So I decided on choosing a horned owl. Okay, the great horned owl. So right here I have a close-up of the owl's face, and then I also have just another shot of the general profile of the body, and then I can also use this later on to get some color samples, which I will show you how to do. Okay, but let me first go back to animating a sprite. Okay, so I'm in this one. Okay, and one of the things that you have to keep in mind is how your bird or your animal is going to fill up your tile space. In this case, we're using a 48 pixel by 48 pixel square, which is the standard size of a character in RPG Maker MV. Sorry, and do you think about it? Do you want your bird to be the size of a human? Or maybe it doesn't matter to you, and you want to fill up that box space. So one of the things I did was I looked at that picture of an owl. I'm like, all right, let me get the body shape down, and I'll show you what that looks like later on. I don't know why I'm talking about that. See, I'm getting off on a tangent already. This is terrible. But I wanted to give you a little bit of insight into creating flying sprites. Now, this is an aerial view, so this is top down. Actually viewing straight on from the top. You can have birds like this for sure. Maybe if you want to do it as your maybe a vehicle sprite. Maybe you have your character riding a bird over the world map. That might make sense. But I like to stick with top down, maybe like a 3/4. So you get to see the head, and you'll see some of the feet, and then you'll see like the tail feathers. So like this is the bird straight on, okay? And basically it's just a head. I'll zoom in here. So this is just the head. This is the tail feathers in the back, and these are its feet or its claws that it's hooked up behind, and they're tucked in because they're flying. And then the way I do, then I have some wings. So then I have wings separate for straight. So let's say if it was gliding, wings when they're up, and wings when they're down. All right. Now, the important thing to remember is how you animate it. So in the RPG Maker basic sprite sheet, you have the left or the right, the center, and the left step. So in an animates, it goes 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. It goes back that way. So it repeats the center frame twice. So if I start with wings up, it'll go wings up, then straight, then down, then back to straight before it starts at the beginning of the cycle of up. So let me show you what that looks like. And I have an animated GIF right here. This should be the first one. And whoops. So that's what I just did. Okay. So here the bird is stationary and its wings are moving. And it looks pretty good. And this is about I think 2 millisecond or 2/10 of a second in between. So in RPG Maker that would be maybe 12 frames per second. So that's what that looks like. So then I decided, it looks good, but there needs to be more movement. So example, when the bird flaps its wings down, it's going to put thrust. Okay, it's going to be generating thrust, which means its body is going to be moving up. So what I like to do is when I have the wings going down, I have the head and the body moving up. And when the wings are going up, the body is going to come down. And you'll see what that looks like in this GIF. Okay? Looks a lot better, doesn't it? So here you can see the wings go down, and then we have that downdraft of force which lifts the body of the bird up, and then so on and so on. So it kind of adds a little bit more detail and a little bit more liveliness to your sprite animation. Now third, I'm like, well, you know what? They use that those tail feathers to steer, right? They can manipulate those tail feathers. So then what I did is I experimented with moving the tail feathers. All right. So what it looks like right now, though, is almost kind of like the bird is, I don't know, swimming on a current of air. It's kind of strange. So I ultimately decided that the way I liked it the best animated was this way. Okay. So keeping the tail feathers stationary. If you wanted to do that, you certainly could. But I decided that for whatever purposes of mine, and I like this the best, just going to keep it stationary. So that's a little tip for you. Keep in mind, it's basically just a ball, and these are sticks. And as the ball goes down, the sticks come up. And as the sticks go down, the ball comes up. Very simple way to animate a bird sprite. All right, so let's close all this. Yep, let's get out of this. Let's go close out of this. We don't need this anymore. And let's get into the real meat of the tutorial, which is the owl. Okay, so I'm going to choose to do this in real time. I might do some fast forwarding a little bit when I edit this and then come back and talk about it. That way you can still see the process, and it won't be a super long video. I'm hoping it won't be. Um, so you can see that I have a blue background here. Now, what I like to do when I do my sprites is I like using black. I'll use my black pencil tool and make sure it's a pencil. Make sure it's set to 1. Nope, it's still on brush. And I just like to draw, you know, just like you draw with a regular pencil. Sometimes I like just to start with the basic shape and then kind of start filling in, and then you can erase to get the details that you want. But one approach that I had was doing the body shape first. So I looked at my drawing. I looked at my drawing of the owl. This is terrible. There we go. I looked at my owl picture, I should say, reference, and I just kind of made a note of what it looked like, the outline of the shape. If this was a black silhouette, it kind of comes up here at an angle, bends in, rounds off, except for the flaps. I think they're ear flaps here. They're not actual horns, and it comes down this way, and then you have the feet here. All right. So the first thing I did was I tried to mimic that. And I filled up the space pretty well, but I just did not like how the face got squished. All right. So the second approach that I came up with was, you know what? Let's just do the face first. And this is the approach I'm going to stick with. So I started by looking at my face picture and coming up with the outline that I have here, the shape of the eyes, just a very basic beak, which is just these horizontal bars. And the reason why I put blue in the background was because if I had done my outline in black, which would be here, you can see that it kind of smushes things together, kind of messes up the overall design that I'm going for. So that definitely needs to stay white in order for my pixel art to start making sense. So I have this blue background here just to be a contrast to the white that I needed to put there. Most of these pixels are going to be changing colors. They won't be staying black because the owl obviously is not outlined in black. Now you can choose to do that as a style. Some people like that, and we may talk about that in a later video. But for now, I'm just doing my rough in a black. So what I'm going to do now is I'm probably going to stop talking, and I'm probably going to just continue working and fast forward here, maybe stop for a little bit, and then catch up with you again in a little bit. Okay? Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to create a new layer just to grab some colors. I'm going to pull some colors from this image. This image has very good lighting, and it shows a nice range of colors that this animal could have. Now, we're just pulling some general selections. We can always change the image later when we do image adjustments if we need to. If, let's say, if it doesn't quite match our scenes or anything, maybe it doesn't match some of our other tiles that or the environment that we put it in, we can always adjust the sprite using level adjustments or adjusting the curves, that type of thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and I'm just going to pull some colors. So like, oh, it's like a, this is kind of like a whitish blue. I want to get one of the colors I want to get is like a whiter version of this. That's not too bad. Okay, white. That's a nice dark color. I'm only doing it a few pixels. And let's see what else we have. There's a darker gray. So right here, if you can see, I put on its eyeball so you can see it. I just have dark, lighter color than this even lighter white. That kind of is around the face and around under the beak here. All right, so that's the white. The yellow, I'm trying to find a color that's really saturated. So that's for my eye. Here are some midtones, some shades, a little bit darker. And again, I might not even use all these colors, but I know that I have them at my disposal if I need them. All right, we also have this brown that comes around. Now let me move this again so you can see it a little bit clearer. So we have this brown that's around the eyes. All right, and that's really dark brown. I don't even know if I'll use that dark brown. Maybe for the outline. All right. We also have the beak is like, it's odd, but it's like this blue color. So here's a highlight. Here's the highlight. Highlight color. Let's just say that this is that's probably pretty good for the mid-tone. And the dark is almost black. That's really dark, so maybe that will be used as an outline. All right. So we have beak, eyeball, white fur, brown fur, and we also have this black and white peppered type of fur. Let's take a look. Let's zoom out here. We also have, a black band here. So getting all these details in might be difficult just because we're working with so many few pixels. So what we're going to have to do is just pick and choose what we think looks the best. All right. So, and just kind of follow this pattern. So I have, one just white representing this here. Okay. I'm going to fill in the beak, that blue color. Then it has this white patch underneath here, a white patch underneath here, underneath the eye. And then, these, you could call these eyebrows. It has white eyebrows up until it reaches mid-pupil. And then it transfers over to black. And then you have this white rim around the eye. I don't know if I'll be able to get that detail in. We'll see. And for the eyes, we have most of it is yellow, except for a black pupil. Most of it's yellow, black pupil. And then we also have the brown surrounding, and then another rim of black. All right. So just that alone would be, you can make a 1 pixel line. So I'm going to duplicate this layer into my owl project. Open that up. And of course, it's not there. It is there. It's just hiding in it's farther. It's hiding somewhere. I think the best thing I will do instead is, where's my colors? Right there. Okay. Just going to copy that and paste it in to my new document. Perfect. All right, so let's just minimize everything else. That way we can really focus on the colors here. So this is for the fur. This is a beak. That's eye. No, actually that's not. That's also fur. I'm just making myself a quick reference. This is for the eye. I don't think I'll forget, but and this is for the beak. That's for the beak. So what's going on? Okay, good. Let's take a look at our face. What we have so far. I have my colors here. All right. And, you know, I'm looking at the outline. It's not terrible. It's not the best. But it's okay. It's decent. I can work with that. I can live with that. If I zoom out and I look at it, you know, it's vaguely owlish. Maybe what I can do is I can bring this edge up a little bit. It's kind of, it's almost too round here, if that makes any sense. But then again, I don't want any sharp edges because it does need to round out. And whatever I do on this side, I can do on that side. One of the easiest things to do though is just to cut out what you're not going to use, duplicate your layer, flip it. I should probably have a hotkey assigned for horizontal flipping because I use it a lot. And let's see, did I lose some of my face? Yes, I did. That's okay, I can draw it back in. That is no big deal. Actually, I think that went over that. Yeah, I did. Okay. That's no big deal. And I also think I'm going to move the claws down. And the reason why they're white here is because I just wanted them to stand out against the black of the main body design that I was drawing there. Alright, so let's just zoom out, take a look. Not too bad. Now keep in mind here that this is actually going to be filled in. This is all going to be part of the same curve. So that's all part of the same curve. Now I'm going to start doing my coloring on a different layer just because if I make any mistakes, I can just immediately get rid of them. I won't have to worry about messing up my line art. So I'm just going to retitle these line art basic. Alright, this is going to be my palette. Alright, kind of get rid of what I don't need, just kind of hide it. Miscellaneous. I don't think I need whatever's in these two layers. Yeah, these can go. Just to keep my workspace a little bit more organized. Alright. So now I'm going to go into my color layer and I'm going to select what am I going to select? Let's work on the eyes first, alright? So I have this black, you have my pupil, I have the black. Now there was white around it. I don't think I'm going to get to that, so I'm going to go right to the brown ring around the eye. So this is what I'm going to do first. Alright. Now, if you had a dual monitor, this would be the perfect time to use it. So that way you wouldn't have to keep switching back and forth between what you're working on and your reference material. So you'd pull up your work on one monitor and you'd have your reference material on the other. Or you could print this out and use that in front of you. I'm being somewhat lazy. I'm not going to print it out and waste printer ink. But it does help your workflow. So if you're trying to do work quickly, it's definitely going to help you in the long run. So let's take a look. All right, so we have white here. We have the brown. We have a black band, which we got. We have a white. We need to do white eyebrows, kind of. All right. All right, that's what we're missing here. We're missing this here is kind of white. Actually, here, 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 here. Now I can't promise this is going to look any good, just because it's going to start getting really tricky. You know, trying to show that you have you know, the patterning of the feathers and all that stuff. It does get challenging. So they kind of came out like this. And let's see. I actually might use this white here as the whitest part. Okay, so I think what we're going to do now is I'm pretty satisfied with how the head and the face came out. To me, that looks like a pretty good owl. Um, Overall body shape, I like. I like how the claws came out. It took a few tries trying to figure out the colors that I liked that worked with it. So the next step would be to work on the color for the body. And so sometimes with these tricky feathers, um, this is the part I'm worried about the most is how is it gonna, how is that gonna come out, right? Um, I was thinking about maybe, putting in some, some directional strokes of some color, so that, of similar color here, and applying a blur to it and seeing if that, made it look, look good. But, overall, you want your sprites to be clean, to have a clean outside, because remember, if they're going to be moving around on your screen, they need to stand apart from the background. And usually having a well-defined edge helps you do that. So just for example, if I were to blur, I was going to use my blur tool, I'll set the strength up a little bit higher. And if I were to do this, you can see it, how fuzzy that becomes. Now that might work well for an item that's in the background, but not for a sprite. Not for a sprite. We want it here. Um, Maybe we wanted to do this a little bit softer. Let's see what that looks like. And it kind of just muddles them together. So you could do something like that because, fur and feathers and other textures, those are hard to create with pixel art. It's not always the easiest thing to make. So the next step for me, what I'm going to do with this is I am going to work on figuring out the texture for the feathers, and I'm going to look at anything else that I need to make as far as like big patterns for um, colors on the wings or on the belly or down below here. You see I started a pattern. Um, I'm going to actually probably grab a few more colors because this is not enough colors to work with. So I'm going to go back to my reference material. I always do that. I always click on the wrong thing. Right, and so what you can see here, right, I got that thick white band that goes underneath. This gray, we have gray, white, brown that comes around. And so now we have like this dark brown, right? So you can't even really see the wing, but for the purposes of our sprite, I'm going to have it there. It's clearly defined. And so we kind of have, we have a white stripe that kind of goes up the middle right here. And then we have these white stripes kind of that are parallel with each other, that are interspersed with this dark, dark brown. Now I know this is a different color from the owl that I have the other brown sampled from. So, if I need to change it, I will. But I'm just looking for a good dark, dark brown that might work with our current coloring. All right, I'm going to go in here. Let's take a look here at the palette. And actually that works pretty well. So I'm going to go to a new layer just because this is a tricky bit and I'm worried that it's going to come out looking like garbage. I can always erase it. So this will be body color. And I'll rename this to head and claws. Alright, so under body color, we have this dark brown. It's going to make its way in there. Oh, okay. It's very similar to that brown. Alright, then I'll have to have a separation here. Okay, and there you have it. So that is how to pixel art or sprite an owl. So what I ended up doing was, I could have looked at my reference material more. I just decided just to go for it. Um, and you can see how what I did to get this feathery effect here. See how it looks like it's broken up? The lines here, it almost looks like it's ruffled. Um, what I did was I took some of our highlight color and I broke the outline that we made with that lighter color and just these increments. And, you can see here that I have, a light and then the next light is color and it's kind of at this downward angle. So it almost like makes a feather that goes down this way. And I also supplemented that with breaking up the brown outline as well. So you kind of get that almost rough, feathery look. It's a technique called sellout. But and then you might also notice that I did some dithering here. All right, that's when you mix two colors to make it look like there's more colors than there really is. So I'm pretty pleased with the way it came out. If I wanted to, this is my composite, so I made a composite. If I wanted to, what I could do from here is start doing adjustments. So I can adjust the brightness if I think that it's too, bright, or the contrast if I feel like, it's not standing out enough, if the colors aren't standing out enough, or you could adjust the exposure. You can go into your channel mixer and, let's say I wanted to output, a little bit different tone to it or whatever. All those, or make it monochrome, whatever. All those things that you want to do, you can do. One of the things that I might do is like make those eyes really yellow. You can make them pop out, stand out really yellow. But I think overall this blends rather well. And that's all for today. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again next time.